Hello and welcome to Womenpreneur Asia, the podcast that celebrates the journeys and stories of remarkable women entrepreneurs across the region. I'm your host, Krista Gun, and you're listening to Season 9. This episode is sponsored by Redbox Studio. Ever since I started my podcast, many business owners have asked me how they too could start their own podcast. That's why I decided to write an ebook sharing everything that I do in my podcast, including the strategy and technical know-how. If starting a podcast is something you'd like to explore this year, check out my brand new ebook, Podcasting Power, available at womenpreneurasia.com. In today's episode, I spoke to a Malaysian entrepreneur who has turned her passion for color and creativity into a flourishing business. Her name is Jillian Tan, and she's the founder of Poppylab, a Malaysian jewellery line that's all about bringing joy through one-of-a-kind earrings, rings, bracelets, bangles, anklets, and necklaces. Jillian started Poppylab as a part-time venture, and it has since blossomed into a brand known for its playful and uplifting pieces. From polymer clay earrings to elegant metal necklaces, her creations are designed to make you feel loved, confident, and happy. In our conversation today, we dive into the challenges of starting a jewelry business, how she markets her jewelry and why she's the model of her own brand, and how going back to basics can enhance brand loyalty. Jillian also shares her insights on collaborations and community, which have helped her brand flourish since 2014. Let's dive into the beautiful and colorful world of Poppylab with Jillian Tan. Hi Jillian, welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hello, nice to see you.
So Jillian, we've been talking before we actually ended up on this recording, but could you let our listeners know what business are you in and how do you start this business?
Poppylab sells jewelry, costume jewelry, mainly earrings, necklaces, the usual stuff. But when I think about, how would I describe my jewelry about the brands, I almost sometimes feel like I'm not really in a jewelry business. I sometimes tell myself that I'm in the business of color, because Poppylab jewelry is all about colorful things, bright, happy colors, and the whole goal is to make people happy, to just embrace life a little bit, while still being wearable for the everyday woman. So it's kind of, ultimately, of course, it's still a jewelry brand, but I like to think of the brand as business of color because it's all about color at the end of the day.
And when do you start this business?
So I started in 2014, and it was initially a part-time sort of thing. I had a full-time job, and it was just something that I really enjoyed doing on the side. So I started an online business. It was Poppylab.com, and we had a few necklaces. And part of that was also part of my job was also doing photo shoots, which I really enjoyed, and working with models and things like that. So that was pretty much the early days. It was very, very small. I mean, it's still a small business. It was very, very small. It was just more like a fun thing that I did on the side.
And did it come to you suddenly that, today I want to start a business and I want that business to be something related to costume jewelry? Or was it something that was born out of maybe childhood or during your teenage years?
I think there's many different things that happened that led me to where I am today. One part of it that really sticks out, apart from the whole, everybody has that childhood story about enjoying whatever they like to do. And for me, I really enjoyed jewelry. It was a hobby. I really, really enjoy making things and, crafting things. I love to play with my mom's sewing box and just create things out of, the want for having things that I couldn't find or couldn't really afford. But I think one thing that really sticks out for me is, so I had a short work stint in Australia in my early 20s. And it was just a short period of time. But when I got there, I found myself in a situation where I realized that the jewelry market is just so much more mature than Malaysia. Not only just the market itself, but the people, how they embrace, dressing up, styling with jewelry and accessories was just so different from what I saw in Malaysia at that time. So this was 2014, about 10 plus years ago. It was just so different. Malaysians weren't really big on chunky jewelry and all that. So Malaysians at the time weren't really so big on it. Yeah, a little bit here and there, but not quite there. in Australia, you'd find so many different shops offering a diverse, range of items, ranging, different products. But in Malaysia, it was still kind of, we had this one shop called Diva for costume, in the world of costume jewelry anyway. We had this one shop called Diva, and, if you wanted costume jewelry, that was the only place you could go to buy. Yes,
I still remember Diva.
Yes. And so that was the thing that really stood out for me. And I just felt like, you know what, I think I really want to try and do this. Because even prior to that, I had a lot of friends who, when I share my little creations, my little hobby things, they would say, hey, I think maybe you should sell these. But at that time, I was like, no, I want to, focus on my corporate career. But after that trip, I just felt different about the whole thing. And so I guess, as you'd say, the rest is history.
And I want to know, why Poppy?
Yeah, a lot of people ask you that question. The first thing they will say is, oh, is your name Poppy? I said, no, my name is not Poppy. My name is Jillian. There's no real reason for Poppy. All this happened sort of when I was in Australia still. I was having dinner and I saw this logo, and it's a shop called Poppylab. And I just somehow just got inspired by that. It just felt so nice to just look at that, that shop. And I like the poppy flower. To me, when you see a field of poppy flowers, it just looks really happy and, joyful. And so I kind of just put the two and two together and just came out with Poppylab. It's just a place where you are happy. It's a happy place. So Poppylab just kind of came about that way.
I mean, I think of Poppylab, but I think, it is something that is quite easy to pronounce. And also it makes you just think of poppies, right?
Yeah.
That itself has a imagery in your mind.
Yes, correct. I mean, it's colorful, it's bright. So that was, I think, the main idea behind it.
So you like colorful stuff? Or you like making colorful things?
To be honest, I'm not exactly a very colorful person. I have shared this on social media a lot that I always tend to just wear black, especially when I was working previously. But I do like colors. From as far as I can remember, when people ask you like, oh, what's your favorite color? I could never really name a favorite color because I just like all colors. I don't necessarily dress in a lot of colorful things all the time, but I just generally, I think color makes people happy. Like when you go to the ocean, you look at the blue, like you can't not feel good and happy when you see a nice turquoise blue ocean or seaside. So it's just something that makes people happy, I believe.
So if I were to ask you, what's your favorite color? Would you name one, or would you say, I can't name one still?
I really can't name one, seriously. I really, truly, honestly love all colors. Like even the most boring color, like some people would say, oh, brown and blue. I still, in certain contexts, different situations, be very, very beautiful. Brown and blue as a combination might sound really strange, but if you, I challenge you to look up the two colors online and Google some images, and you'll find really, really nice color combinations of the two.
How would you describe your jewelry then? If someone came to you and said, hey, Jillian, I heard about Poppylab, I've seen your jewelry, but how would you, as the owner of Poppylab, describe it?
I can't really put a word on it or describe it in detail, shapes, colors, whatever it is. But because it's so diverse, there's just so many different facets to it. But what I can say is that Poppylab jewelry is, like what I mentioned earlier, that it's about bringing joy to people. It's about making people feel good. When you open a package, in the mail, when you purchase something, you're meant to feel, usually you feel really good when you open, the whole unboxing process is, you're usually excited about your online purchase. But more importantly, I think Poppylab is meant to make people feel good and feel confident. And that's what it's really all about for me. They're little tools and accessories that it's just that extra touch to give you the extra 10% to make you feel just confident when you go out there to take on your day.
Personally, I've seen your jewelry and I like it a lot because it's understated, but it's also quite interesting because of the colors. Like they're sparkly and they're pretty and they're it's there, but it's not so in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would describe it that way. I'm not too sure whether that is accurate, but from my perspective, I see it that way. Like, it's a little bit of understated elegance. There's something about it, but it's just like little mystery to the person who wears it.
I think it's more like, sometimes it's not so much about, sometimes when I speak to my customers, I explain it in a way where I say, sometimes it's not about like wearing something that has to be obvious to the person looking in from the outside. It's about like, you can see yourself. If like you can see it, like when you put on that piece of jewelry and it looks, pretty to you in your eyes. And it's like this very muted color, for example. It doesn't necessarily have to be bright and obvious from the outside, but as long as you know it and you can feel it, and it's good enough in that sense, and it makes you feel good, and that's enough to me to give you that extra edge you need to, whether it's to take on your day, whether it's to go for an interview, to impress your boss.
So what will be a bestseller from Poppylab?
I have two main product categories. One is the batch of stuff that is fully 100% handmade, and it's called polymer clay. So those ones are a little bit more, I would say, a quiet taste, I suppose, because they're more artsy in that way. It's all chunky flowers and really, really bright colors and stuff like that. And then we have the metals that are a little bit more, I'd say, everyday. Well, we have bigger ones for the metals as well. But yeah, I would say that the longest standing, where I guess I'm most not known for, but longest standing product, I would say, would be the polymer clay line of jewelry. So that's the one that really kickstarted things for me in the beginning, and it's still going on until today. It might not be the main star of the show. Then again, I think it's not fair to not say that it's not the star of the show, because, for example, this Chinese New Year, the star of the show is usually the polymer clay series. So that's the product that, if I be so bold to say that's usually the product that my customers wait for Chinese New Year, and then they get their hands on those. And that's the one product that they usually look forward to for seasonal periods like Christmas and Chinese New Year.
Is there any particular reason for that? Like, you know that they're waiting for it. Is it because Jillian designs them, or there's something about them?
I think they're designed in a way where I make them all very, very unique. So at the very most, I have maybe 2 or 3 pieces of the same design, but most of the time there's only one of that particular piece. They can be from a series called, I don't know, Cherry Blossom, for example. I would have, say, 40 pieces, for example, and each piece would be unique in their own way. So I think it gives the customer or the person wearing, the Poppylab girl, as I would call, a sense of individuality and uniqueness, because they'll be the only ones. And whenever I do pop-ups and when I speak to the customer, and especially if they're new, I usually say that, this item will be completely unique to you. There'll be only one in the world. And a lot of times I don't replicate. And sometimes even if, especially for a certain type of, design, even if I wanted to replicate it, I wouldn't be able to replicate it to that extent. It will still come out quite different. So it is truly, truly, truly unique to the wearer.
So there's only one of its kind in the entire world.
Yeah.
So if you buy that one piece, that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it. You'll be the only person with it, and it's special to you. It's yours.
I didn't know that, Jillian. Honestly, I've been reading stuff about you, but I didn't know that. But I do know that you do series, right? I mean, like I read that you did like the Hornbill series and some, is it the Nyonya series?
Yeah.
Peranakan series? Yeah.
Yes.
So those are polymer.
Yes, those ones are polymers, what we call polymer clay. It's clay-based, but it's made of polymer. So it's a lot more durable than just, ordinary clay or porcelain. And it's very, very lightweight and doesn't break easily. So it's very versatile in that sense. One of the reasons why it could have, lasted so long, I started with polymer clay. I can't remember which year exactly, but it's been quite many years that, that I have not changed mediums, right? It's because this particular material is actually so versatile. I can do so many things with it. If I wanted to, you can create homeware, although it'd be quite expensive because of the the mass and the material, but you can do so many different things. So it's an extremely versatile, and it can actually give you a lot if you know how to work with it.
Would you consider yourself creative?
I guess I would say so. I do come from a line of creative people in the family. So my entire family, my parents are both art teachers. My brother is an industrial designer and engineer, so he also does designing, but just a different kind of more technical design. I grew up with a lot of art. I think that's why, like I said, there was a lot of creating from the time I was young, like creating clothes for Barbie dolls and making little pouches and bags. There's this one very quite distinct memory. This one is not just me, but me and my friends. I think we were in standard 2, so that would have been about 7-8 years old. And we were sewing little pouches and selling them to our classmates. The quality of the was really bad, but
entrepreneurial.
Very enterprising.
What made you think that, you want to sew something and sell it to your friend? Or was there a demand? Maybe there was a demand for it.
I really can't remember how it happened, but I just remembered a group of us, about 4 or 5 girls. We just came together and just started sewing little pouches for our classmates. And I really don't remember much, but I distinctly remember collecting all our money at the end and then, dividing all the profits.
And what do you do with the profits, with the money?
I can't remember. Probably, straight to the canteen to buy snacks and ice cream and what have you.
And where do you grow up? I mean, speaking of, since you're talking about childhood, where do you grow up?
I grew up in Taiping. So I'm from Taiping. And very small, quiet town with friends who are still my friends until today. Some of my closest friends. Still, very, very small town in Taiping. So
but
I
now
think
you're based in KL.
Yes, now I'm based in KL. Very nurturing environment. So it's quiet, slow pace. You get to spend a lot of time with friends and family because, everybody is quite close by. There's not much traffic. A little bit, but not that much. Not like KL.
The other thing I noticed about you, Jillian, and Poppylab is that I think you model your own creations. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes, correct. So a lot of it has to do with the fact that models can be really, really expensive though. I do hire models every now and then, but it all really started with a friend who runs a business as well. And she mentioned that, back in the day, go back a little bit. I used to do a lot of photo shoots, and my best friend would be the one who models for me, or I would hire some models, just to, model a few things. But at the same time, I would just take a few pictures. But as the business progressed, I didn't really it was mainly just product pictures and then, put them up online. That would be it. But eventually I was speaking to another friend who was doing business as well, and she was selling bags, and she said do you know that if you take photos of your products on a model, you will see that your business will increase. It will help your customer make a decision quicker as compared to if you didn't have a model photo. So that's how it started. And I would just take a few pictures of myself just to mainly for size reference, and also to give the customer a better idea of the product that they're buying, how it would sit and all that. So it definitely helps. But I think to answer your question, it's mainly to save money because models are very, very expensive, influencers as well.
Okay, so talking about that, so let's get into how do you market your products? How do you market your rings and the products that you have in your range, right? When you first started versus now, has there been any change?
I think it's very different from when I first started compared to now, extremely different. So back in the day when I started in 2014, it's not like what we have now. For example, the main mode of advertising would be social media. I think everybody would probably just start there. That would be the first place they'd start. But Instagram and Facebook and whatnot is so different from what it is now. Those days when you put out your pictures, first of all, there weren't as many people on the platform. And when you put out your pictures and all that, you didn't have tools like Instagram ads. You can't advertise your product. So you have to rely on influencers. You have to really, really think outside the box, or get family and friends to share, that kind of thing. It's very traditional. Yes, or like your post. It's very traditional in that way. But now you have all the other tools that make it, in a way, it's a double-edged sword. It's a lot more convenient, but at the same time, it makes it harder as well, if that makes sense. So it's a lot more convenient. You can, just click on a button and start advertising. Yes, I do, use a lot of social media to market, as well as not as much, but a little bit of, social media, like key opinion leaders, like, influencers and whatnot. And a lot of it also is, going back to the basics, which are doing pop-ups. I think for jewelry business, it helps a lot when a customer can come, see, touch and feel a product, especially when it comes to this type of like products that are like in a way personal, because you put it on your face and people can see what it looks like. So yeah, it's different sizing and whatnot. So yeah, I still go back to the basics of doing pop-ups, social media, things like that. Yeah.
I think the person who recommended me to you also met you at the pop-up, right? She
Yes,
was
correct.
also doing pop-up with you.
Yes, correct. We used to be neighbors. I think there was like a short stint, I think it was 2018. So I happened to join a pop-up. It was my second pop-up ever actually at that time at Four Seasons in KL. So they had like a little space at the bottom and she happened to be my neighbor. And subsequently we joined another pop-up and she happened to be my neighbor as well. So we had like several pop-ups in a row where we were next to each other, so much so that I could sell for her and she could also like help to sell for me if like one of us were, away or busy. Yeah.
That sounds quite fun. You actually made friends at pop-up. Yeah,
that's correct. Because you're there for so long hours, you have to kind of, in a way, like just make friends a little bit. The pop-up scene those days was quite different. It was very community, maybe it was a little bit smaller. Yeah.
So do you still do pop-ups now?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think, like I said earlier, like for jewelry, it is still quite important to have that touch point where people can come and see you in person. I feel to a certain extent, there's only so much that marketing, on social media and things like that can do for you. So for a personal product like this, sometimes they just want to see. It also helps to, gain a little bit of trust, especially now with how, online businesses are. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to convert somebody based on just like pretty pictures. Everybody's doing the same thing. What sets you apart from somebody else? And when you have that, personal face-to-face connection, it truly, truly helps. It helps me too, because when I'm on this side selling to somebody online, I don't really have much in communication from the person the other side. I don't really get feedback. So when I'm at the pop-up, I actually really enjoy it. Although I'm not there every single day, I used to anymore. So I have people help me. But whenever I'm there, I actually really look forward to it. Most of the time, just to reconnect with some of my, OG customers, as I would say, just to catch up. And, it's like really like meeting friends. But a lot of times, serving customers helps me to understand what are the problems that they're facing, or what is their thought process when they are making a purchase. Like whether it's size or material, or what are their concerns, like whether it's quality, how much the stone sparkles. You'd be surprised at some of the concerns or questions that people come up with. Of course, there are a whole range that are your basic, usual, frequently asked questions, but some of the questions that come up can be quite interesting, and it really, really helps me plan for future collections and how I would address customer concerns and stuff online. So it's actually a combination of the two that really helps me.
Now, I'm quite curious. What interesting questions would people ask about jewelry?
The usual basic ones would be, can I shower with this? My ears are sensitive. Can I wear this and will it get itchy or not? But I would say that, let me try and think of some of the, interesting ones. I think some of the random questions that I get would be like, does this make me look, too serious? Or does this make me look, I don't want to come off as XYZ, for example, like it's quite personal in a way. Like it's I can't really think of a funnier or more interesting one, but at the top of my head, these are some of the, examples of some of the interesting things that they will ask, like whether it be shiny enough or not, or do you think if I wear this, whether my mother-in-law would think certain things of me? Yeah, So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Oh, that sounds quite interesting. I never knew buying jewelry could go into the realm of would my mother-in-law think badly of me or think better of me.
Yeah.
But in terms of like marketing, I mean, the early years, were there any marketing challenges that you faced?
I think even way before I started pop-ups and whatnot, I mean, business as a whole is a challenge. So I can list like so many different challenges if I wanted to. But I think getting the brand out there was a real challenge. Getting people to spend their hard-earned money on a brand that they didn't know is a real challenge. I think it's a challenge that any business would face. Once I kind of got past through that, so I used key opinion leaders, influencers, not a lot, some within the budget that I had at the time, and mostly through friends and family to help in the beginning. But I think the pop-ups really helped at first. And from there, it was word of mouth marketing that really helped as well. I'm not trying to boast or anything, but quality is so important. And if you strongly believe in your product and have a good, solid foundation for why you're doing what you're doing and have a real purpose for it, in some ways and to a certain extent, it will market itself. So for me, my OG customers, like I said just now, like the people that I come to hang out with at pop-ups, really truly helped me because they got their friends to come, they got their colleagues to come. But of course, to get there was a lot of challenges. So you have to, make sure you convince them first. And I think having a good, solid foundation or a good circle of friends or community, women supporting women, helped a lot. I'm not the most extroverted person, but the few friends or communities, like, even I joined this yoga class and we had to talk a bit about, our business and what we did for a living. And some of them decided to visit the pop-up and they are still customers until today. So just from that, and I also got to know their colleagues, for example. So it's really quite crazy how things can just, grow and expand from something so small as just a little meetup at a yoga session, for example.
So that also brings to mind, like, you can never discount any opportunity, right?
Yes,
even
correct.
going for exercise could be a marketing opportunity.
Yes, correct. It is very important, like how we are right here at this topic, because just, 2 days ago, I just mentioned to a friend, like, hey, maybe we should start pickleball, because pickle is such an in thing, especially in KL right now, right? That everybody is going to play pickle, and it could be the new golf. You know how golf those days was the place where, businessmen would meet up and make connections, and pickle seems to be the place where a lot of business owners, everybody would go to meet. So yeah, like it's really quite crazy how friends and connections, just like meeting you as well, how the person you interviewed before got me connected to you, and I met her through a pop-up, and it's just like a little network of opportunities. Even starting a pop-up as well. I started that pop-up where I met the person you spoke to previously at Four Seasons, and based on that little community of other business owners, they gave me insightful advice about where to go, good places to go to set up my shop at the pop-up, and I will always truly be grateful for their insight at the time, because it truly just kickstarted things for me.
Like you mentioned, right? Sometimes the opportunities for business is not really just in the business context or environment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be outside of that. And if we just look beyond the traditional business environment, I think there are many opportunities out there for any entrepreneur to find something that they can do in a, I wouldn't call it unusual. I just say it's just a little way of exploring how you could market differently, rather than the same old things that everyone is doing, right?
Yes, correct. Because just to speak a little bit on that, because like, for example, social media marketing now, I think it's the thing that everybody wants to do now, especially since COVID hit and people couldn't do their brick and mortar, whether it's a pop-up shop or whatever it was. So everybody wanted to divert to social media marketing. But I think the negative side of that is that everything is extremely saturated now. I don't know how much time you spend on social media. I do quite a lot, mainly because of work. But you are bombarded with ads every other post. For example, if you spend time scrolling past, through Insta stories, for example, after 2 stories or 3 stories, you get an ad. So much so that it's almost automatic that when you see an ad, at least for me, I will almost automatically just swipe away. So it's clearly not, if I may say so, like not doing what it's supposed to do to a certain extent. Of course, we still have to rely on it, but I think it's just a reminder that we need to maybe go back to basics, or really need to think a little bit differently about how we want to market our products. At least that's for me. Like that's the reminder I'm giving myself. I'm telling myself that I need to just think about something else. It's time to think about something else.
And that something else is really moving away from what everyone else is doing, right? So that you don't get into the well, a lot of it is noise.
Yes,
on social media, a lot of it is noise, right?
Yes,
so
correct.
before we go on and talk about other things, I just wanted to mention that the person we're talking about, the mysterious woman, is Ida, right? Ida.
Yes, correct. I wasn't sure whether it's like okay to mention her name. So
It is.
Err on the safe side and wait for you to mention it.
No. I just wanted to put it out there that I interviewed Ida, and she mentioned you, and she said I should get in touch with you because you've got a nice little business going. So I said, great, I'm going to talk to you and get you on the podcast. But you know how I got to know Ida is from her sister, Nina.
Yes, and she does her little grow the goose thing, right?
Yeah. So it's like one person connects me to another and another. So it's quite fun. So I just put it out there because Ida, if you're listening to this, yes, we're talking about you. And thank you so much for introducing me to Jillian, because I think even before we got into this recording, we actually had a very nice chat, right? And that was like months ago, before you did all your house moving and all that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So back to the topic of marketing. So now you're saying that you're looking at other forms or going back to basics. Is it something that you're very intentional about this year?
I wouldn't say that I'm extremely intentional about it just yet. I think there are other things in, my agenda that I need to sort out in a way. But it is something that I'm actively thinking about. For example, I think one thing that I did think about was creating more touch points for customers, physical touch points as well. So that's something that I'm thinking of. But yeah, it's definitely something that is at the back of my mind, something that I really want to explore further. Maybe not the main thing for this year, but it's part of the whole project. If that answers your question.
Okay. So it means that you're really, really looking at different things and trying to get closer to the customer.
Correct. Yes, correct. I think, just like I said, creating new touch points, growing the customer base, and also creating new touch points for them. So how I do that, I don't really have an answer for that yet, but that's part of the plan for the moment for this coming year.
So I just want to ask you this question. How difficult is it to start a jewelry business?
In a lot of ways, it is fairly easy to start a jewelry business because of all the tools that are available for you now. So you can just make something or even buy something online, right? From, China or wherever it is, in Shopee. A lot of people do that. And just take some photos, put it out on social media, and then turn on Instagram ads, and you're pretty much set. But then again, there's also other things to consider. For example, right now, market and fashion trends, for example, if we're talking about jewelry specifically, changed so much. Customer behavior has changed so much. And if you are just another pretty picture online, it's not going to really, do much anymore to a certain extent. I think because customers crave so much more than just that. And you have to have a really, really solid foundation or purpose or something, whatever it is that it could be for you or your brand. That figuring that out is extremely difficult. Even I myself have not completely figured it out yet. But in order to succeed, I think you will need to figure that out, because I think somebody once told me before, if you are relying solely on just trends, right, meaning you're just following trends, you're going to be in serious trouble. It's not going to last, basically. To figure out what the customer wants and not just a pretty picture, is going to be quite difficult. So on a deeper level, I would say no, like jewelry business is not that easy to start. It is in a way easy, but competition is extremely stiff. So, and you have to really have a really very strong foundation. So in that sense, I would say no, it's not that easy to start a jewelry business, especially at this time and age.
And since you've been in business for about 11 years, can I ask, like, what are some of the key lessons you learned running a business for more than a decade?
I think so many different things. I mean, I just don't even know where to start. But I think some of the things that, well, one thing that I read in a blog a long time ago, and it really quite stuck with me a little bit. Of course, I had already started my business at that time, but I read in a blog, somebody said to start small. And what she meant was that, how like, maybe not business, but even if, your everyday tasks or a project that you want to get into, sometimes as people, we tend to like, oh, okay, once I overcome this, then I'll do that. Or once I get this tool, then I'll do that. Once I refurnish my house, then maybe I'll stop calling people over. Or once I get my new laptop, maybe then I will write that book, right? But I think the key message that person was saying on the blog, and it really stuck with me, and it was also something that I personally learned, is to start small. So you don't have to go all fancy with your, for example, packaging or, extremely fancy website in the beginning. It's really all about, if you have a strong message, if you truly believe in what you are selling or what you have, just start is better than spending all that on the packaging and the fancy whatnot, because a lot of times it's probably not something that is not going to be a wise investment anyway. I learned it the hard way. I spent quite a lot of money on packaging in the beginning, and it turned out that I used only some of it. A lot of it had to be thrown out because your first product is never going to be it's hardly ever going to be your be all and end all product. That's one. But the other thing also is that quality is just so important. Spending more money and taking smaller profits, right, or smaller margin will take you so much further than your short-term earnings. So basically what I'm trying to say is that it's really a marathon and not so much a sprint. So I really am a true believer in starting small and growing at a pace that you're comfortable with, and not to stay in your own lane. I always just try to tell myself to just stay in my own lane and not. It's easy to get, distracted by competition or what people are doing, how people are succeeding. But of course, competition is always good, but to a certain extent, stay in your own lane and, do what's right for you. There's wisdom in starting small and growing steadily rather than extreme fast growth.
In terms of your own business, right? What strengths do you bring to your business?
I didn't have a traditional or a professional training in jewelry design and things like that. So I come from the perspective of a consumer, from the perspective of somebody who just enjoys the product and just really loves it. And I just truly enjoy it, just like a lot of other people out there. So I think I, in that sense, bring to the table a more relatable perspective. That I just come in as a consumer. So I'm just like you and you, my customers, that I just come from that standpoint. And I think maybe I'm more relatable in that sense.
So would it have been different if you were like a designer?
I definitely think so. I think if you're a designer, there's a certain level of, I can't think of the right word, but a certain level of air around you. Like you come from a very, very professional standpoint. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. It's just a different perspective, a different feel, and different message. So my message and my feel is a more relatable girl next door kind of standpoint.
Which is actually quite obvious. When I looked at your jewelry, it is a very pleasing, I would say, very pleasing, very easy to wear pieces that you really don't have to think twice, like, okay, what do I match with this, right? It's just something that you just put on and just walk out the door. So I think when you were saying just now about, like you're still trying to figure out, like, is it the mission that you were talking about? Was it a mission or something that you were saying earlier? Would that mission be something about making people feel confident Or is there
Yeah.
something bigger than beyond that you're trying to get at?
I think the definite, like the main mission, the main goal, the whole purpose for Poppylab and is in a way beyond me. At least I try to make it so that Poppylab is meant to just, make other people feel good. It's meant to bring joy, to make you feel confident, and so that other people can tell their story. So I truly believe that the show is so much more than just jewelry and accessories. It's about telling your story. It's about, sometimes it holds sentimental value, but a lot of times it's really just about you telling your own story. And you look at a piece of jewelry, say a pair of earrings, and you look at it and you remember, when you met your significant other or something for the first time, and how that piece or how you felt on that day. And I think that is the story of your life. And when you dress up, a lot of people sometimes say like, oh yeah, it's just an earring, or like, why do you want to dress up? But it is your message that you send out to the world, and it's how people perceive you. So I think it's really important in that way. Like, it's really the energy that you give out to other people who, when they look at you, it's basically the summary of yourself when you go out there and you show people what you wear, right? It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just has to show people who you are. And that's your story. That's your message.
And what's next for the business?
The main focus this year will definitely be customer growth and customer retention. I come from a background of a lot of customer service was a lot of my background in the past. I was in market research for almost 10 years, and a lot of it was market analysis and sales and customer service, client servicing. So I come from that kind of background where if you take care of your customers can take care of you, especially when you are small and competition is stiff. It's hard to find a lot of different avenues where you can have leverage over a different brand. So if you have like a strong customer service base and foundation, that will definitely help a lot. So that's the main focus for this year. I think would be being more customer driven, and to have more touch points for customers to experience the brand. That could mean, I don't know, possibly not a brick and mortar store yet, but maybe, I don't know, different ways of collaborations to make that possible for people. But of course, as a jewelry business, especially because competition is so stiff, I think this is something that always has to be done, would be product innovation. So to look at new avenues, new ways of making things interesting. The thing about the world nowadays is that the wow factor it's getting harder and harder to achieve, only because we are just bombarded with so much media every day, and it's just we're becoming jaded people, like nothing really like is so exciting anymore. So as a brand, it's just the work that has to be done, unfortunately, but it's hard work, but it has to be done, is to just keep innovating and keep coming up with something new and fresh that hopefully that customers will like.
Do you engage in a lot of collaborations with other people, other companies?
Not so much. I know other brands who do a lot more, but I really do enjoy collaborations with some brands and also some non-profit organizations. I think it's one of the things that I really enjoy, like an aspect of marketing that I really, really enjoy, because it makes me feel good as well. I think circling back to the hornbill earrings that you mentioned earlier, so that was one of my first collaborations that I did with this organization called Hutan. So they do a lot of work in preservation of rainforests, especially in East Malaysia, and also in the preservation of hornbills in East Malaysia. So I think part of that, the whole purpose of that collaboration wasn't so much of branding and shared audiences and whatnot. Yeah, part of it too. But part of it was also to bring awareness to the plight that hornbills are facing in East Malaysia because of deforestation. So I think those are some of the smaller collaborations that I really do enjoy. It helps to definitely bring a positive light to the brand for the kind of things that are important to me as a brand. But of course, it also has other benefits as well, like shared audiences and whatnot. And of course, it makes everybody feel good when you do something good whilst shopping as well.
Is there anything that I should have asked you but didn't?
I mean, I think you pretty much covered it. I tend to just go on even if you don't ask me anything. It's there anything that I
Anything
don't
particular
think
that you feel, anything particular that you feel that you need to get off your chest that I have not asked you yet?
I think maybe not so much about the business per se, but I did read something quite interesting today about changing your perception about competitors. Just like any other business owner, I've always had negative perception about competition, especially copycats, people who copy your products, copy your styles,
Copy your designs.
advertising, lots of things, right? And you naturally will definitely feel a bit unhappy about it. I think that's only natural. But I read this article by Greta. She's the owner of Skinny Tea. Sorry, I can't remember the name. But anyway, she's a very successful business owner from Australia. And she said to change your perception about how you see competition, because without competitors, your competitors are there, of course, to keep you on your toes, but to also create a marketplace. As a whole, your competition and you are generating a more healthy marketplace, and they are, creating more customers to a certain extent and keeping things alive in a way. So, there's a lot of other things that she mentioned, but it definitely has changed my perception about how I see competition and how to approach the challenge of going against competition, and not just having bad feelings about it.
But also, if you have competitors, I feel that it forces you to really think deeply about what you stand for.
Yes, correct. Yeah. I think it's a good reminder to just keep building on your foundation and to really drive your message out there about what's important to you and what's important, what you're trying to say as a brand.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good way to wrap up our interview today. Jillian, where can people find you online to check out the jewelry and everything that you do?
We are on Instagram. You can check us out at instagram.com/poppylab, POPPYLAB, or you can also make a purchase directly on poppylab.com. So that's POPPYLAB.com. Okay.
So thank you, Jillian. I really enjoyed this session with you, because I think I remember I started out with a whole list of questions that I wanted to ask, but usually I will let my guests take the lead. And I think you took the lead very well today. So you just made my life easy.
A bit of a chatterbox. And I'm a bit long-winded. I'll go, deviate to different topics and have to remind myself to come back to your question. But I hope I answered all your questions.
You did. So I'm glad you gave us some pointers and tips. So a lot of interesting things there.
Yes, thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Jillian as much as I did. Her journey of turning a passion for vibrant jewelry into a thriving business is truly inspiring, more so when she shares how marketing and advertising has evolved so much since she started in 2014. I liked her down-to-earth insights about building connections and staying true to your vision, and these are lessons that every entrepreneur can embrace. Whether you're just starting out or looking to infuse more joy into your business, I hope Jillian's story about Poppylab has sparked some inspiration and perhaps even a bit of courage to add a splash of color to your own entrepreneurial journey. You can explore Poppylab's delightful creations on their website or follow them on Instagram. If you've been enjoying these episodes of raw and real conversations with female entrepreneurs across Asia, please subscribe to Womenpreneur Asia on your favorite podcast app, or leave a review, or share this episode with a friend. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next episode.